Here we go. Well, let's speak live, everybody. Cali, Jersey. We're doing via satellite, by the way. We're not. By the way, Magnus. Some people think that we were in the same room. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's so
no.
funny.
Actually, my father said that. He's like, yeah, that guy. He comes to your studio. I'm like, no, Dad. He's in California, and I'm in Jersey, and we do like via satellite. He's like, oh, satellite. He doesn't even know what the hell Zoom is. But anyway, so
No, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, look at it. Like things that would cost tens of thousands of dollars to actually set up. It's like you you pay your internet
if you would have
or
told me we'd be
yeah,
doing this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I would be like, well, how's that possible?
yeah,
I'm not a whatever. I'm not a movie star or I don't have billions of dollars. And yeah, the beauty of technology. And we'll do a show in the future about how AI is going to make things better, but also worse.
yep,
And so, speaking of which, let's talk about the two topics today: the good old days being better and today being worse as a perception. It
yeah.
may or may not be. And pre-workout. Do we really need pre-workout before you work out? You know, these powders you see a lot of people taking before they work out. Okay, so let's talk about good old days versus
Yeah,
whatever today. You know, Magnus, I see a lot, and I guess you and I were getting of a certain age. You know, like, and we're becoming our parents, we're becoming our grandparents. We're
one
like,
hundred
when I
percent.
was a kid, the good old
Yeah,
days, things are worse today. Wow, the world's there's so many wars. You know, it's like, you know, if anybody cares to look, actually, I'd make the argument, and you know, we can go tit for tat. If I should have had a pessimist on or an optimist on, but if you're looking for bad, you're going to find plenty of bad. If you're
yeah.
looking for good, you're going to find plenty of good. And, you know, I also think the stats don't even support things being bad. I mean, if you depends on where people want to look. You want to look worldwide, you want to look countrywide, you want to look statewide, you want to look townwide. I mean, I'd make the argument, and I'm not some Pollyannic, you know, child. I see that there's things that are bad in the world. I get it. I'm not, you know, dumb or blind to it. But when you look at the stats, um, I don't. The stats don't bear out that things are worse. The stats, I would make the argument, bear out things are better. So, like childhood mortality,
Yeah.
down dramatically from 100 years ago, from 50 years ago, from
Yep.
30 years ago. You know, all cause mortality down from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when our grandparents and things were better, or the 1980s when things were better. So, no, in so many ways, people are healthier, wealthier. And I'm not talking about yachts. I'm talking about today. Even, you know, people like to say, "Oh, you got to work 2 jobs and 10 jobs," and I'm stressed. Well, that you got to look at your spending habits, probably, and how you're living. But
Yeah.
the average American today lives far better than the average American from 1950, from
I
1960,
think I
1970.
think that looking around the whole world, I think like percentage wise, that has definitely increased. I mean, like life quality has increased. You see also economies that have blossomed extremely during the last 50 years.
Of
Like look for
course.
instance, like China, very different from 50 years ago now.
Right. Yeah, people don't want to hear about China, but I hear
No,
what you're
no, of
saying.
course,
Right.
but like we still need to look at the whole world, and
Right.
I
And
think that's
America's doing better. That's the thing.
yes,
You know,
yep,
Magnus, it drives me mad when people say, and especially quote unquote older people, which is basically our era, people in their 40s and 50s, 60s, 70s, say, "Oh, this country's going to hell." You know, listen, there are some bad things in our country, no doubt. But there's a lot of good things in our country. And, you know, like, again, you know, our country, I think, in many ways, is much better than it has ever been. I think the quality, again, on average, I understand there's bad and everything, again, but on average, our education system is very good. I understand it's not the best in the world, but on average, our education system in any given state is very good. Believe it or not, our healthcare, not perfect, but generally speaking, better than most countries. We have peace. Hello, peace. Anybody? Try living in the Ukraine right now. Try living in Israel. Try living in being a child in Palestine. Try living in you know, Western Africa where there's wars going on. You know, like, but most of the world is not at war, and America, we're not at war. There's nobody attacking our country. We have a peaceful country. You can live together in peace. There are so many good things, and we take it for granted. We think things are so bad. And you know, I was telling my nephew, I was like, you know, you should really get out of the country and see that America, we have it very good in America. Overall, I understand there's street crimes and things, but overall, America is a safe country. You know,
yeah.
And that's why so many people want to come here. It's a good country, and we have a lot of things to be grateful for. But there's always, again, you watch the news, and they only pick out the 2 bad things that happened today, but not the 10,000 things that were good that happened today.
Anthony, that's the key to the whole thing. If you're constantly getting exposed to the news, because the news do not want to report anything good, because it's more like people, it's like clickbaiting. They draw more people into viewing it if it's negative.
People want to see cars. They don't want to see cars pass by.
Yeah, no, and they don't want to see the neighborhoods that are having fun barbecuing together.
Even in the neighborhoods where people are having violence. Magnus, today on a major news network, okay?
Yeah.
Opening story on the news in where I am in New York City here. Stabbing today. Okay. In New York City, okay? Mm-hmm. So New York City has millions of people today that were not stabbed, that were not hurt, that were not assaulted. Everything went fine for millions of people. They didn't want to report that. They picked the one person who was stabbed, so, and it's bad, of course, it's sad. But I mean, really? Folks, zoom out, and no, New York City is actually pretty safe,
I mean, it's the same thing. And then in bypassing, they mention like natural issue, like say that we have tsunami or that we have earthquake, whatever, and thousands of people died. And they basically talk about that for 3 seconds. But then they need to zoom in on, like you're saying, locally, what's extreme. And I think this is very something that I noticed definitely moving to the States and living in the States and comparing to living in Sweden, because Sweden is such a small country.
Right.
A lot of our news is focused on abroad, like what's going on in Europe, what's going on in Asia, what's going on in the States, what's going on. So we seldom go into this but here in the States, it's always been that with TV, it's so locally. And I mean, you can have a report on the local farmers' pigs are sick, and spend 30 minutes on talking about that.
Magnus, and then they had a story about the whooping cough coming back in parts of New York City, okay?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
but the way they made it sound was like everyone's gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you look up whooping cough online, guess what happens? You don't die. Sorry, folks. Now they didn't say you were gonna die, but the way they put it out there in the news, big letters, scary, breaking now, at 5 o'clock, the whooping cough. It's meanwhile, nobody wants the whooping cough, but sorry to let you know, folks, you're not dying from the whooping cough. I understand, somebody, your aunt's uncle's cousin, 1945, died of the whooping cough. Anyways, nobody's fucking dying of the whooping cough, And Magnus, now you mentioned in your country, even in this country too, every fucking commercial is, do you suffer from this? Do you suffer from that? This could help. This could help you. They make you think everybody's in America. I'm losing my mind. I have to stop watching.
We're so lucky in Sweden. And I would say, I think I've mentioned this before. The only 3 countries that allow you to do commercials about prescription drugs. And that is, number 1, the States. And then I think it's New Zealand. And then I think it's Argentina or something like that. But looking at it, there's a reason why the rest of the world decided, no, you're not allowed to do commercials of pharmaceuticals in that way. Just because of that. Because all of a sudden now everybody needs, I need this pill instead of
Magnus, it's not even I need a pill. They make you think
that you need it. That you have to have
I'm saying. They make you think you're sick. They make you depressed. I get depressed. I'm watching this. I'm like, am I? Is something wrong with me? And if it's not that commercial, here comes another commercial for something else. It's but it's not even so much that you need it. It's just a negative. And then back to the news. And then the world is ending. And then this war, that war. Meanwhile, most of the world is not at war. Sorry. Yeah. Actually, the world is at more peace right now, worldwide, than ever before. Yes, there are wars going on.
But it's the same thing. It's the
7
same
billion
thing.
People on Earth, most of the 7 billion, sorry, they're not at war.
But looking at it, it's also the same thing. For instance, the United States is extremely sports-centered. There's got to be a TV screen with sports going on 24/7 everywhere you go, right? And the focus, a lot of the talk shows and the games and everything like that, they're again focusing on a lot of the negative things. Oh, that call was horrendous, this, that, and there's not that much focus on, what went well, that, injuries, right, things like that. No. There's always gotta be focus on the bad stuff. And I think, right, it just seems to be, it's the same thing with a lot of the fans. I don't understand if it's almost like they don't want their team to win. They rather have their team lose so they can be miserable and go walk around and talk about negative stuff in that way. Instead of like, it's sports. It's supposed to be entertaining,
Magnus, we got a problem in this country, and I'm guilty because it's affecting me too. Like, I have to now really limit how much time I'm on social media, how much time I watch certain television programs. I find myself watching more comedies from the 1980s, wholesome stuff. I just, it's wearing on me, and I am not some prude or anything. And I don't think most of America realizes that we're depressed or we're angry or we're upset. And there's no reason to be. Look around. Look at your family. Are you alive? Are you healthy? Do you have food?
Anthony,
do you have a roof? Be fucking grateful, and be grateful every day. And I'm taking my own advice to heart. Go ahead, Magnus.
Yeah. So here's how I see it. I think that we have it so good.
We're looking for problems.
Yes, or our way of life is so good that it turns into a problem.
Magnus.
And we're talking about the diabetes, the obesity, things like that, and medication and depression.
I have these problems that I also, I have to remind myself, Anthony, you have a great life. I have so much to be grateful for. And I find myself in these holes because of my choices to be on social media, to watch. Well, I used to watch the news. I don't do that anymore. But I found myself depressing myself, thinking that the world sucks. My life sucks. And I struggle with that. And I'm doing it to myself. And I think most Americans are too, but we don't realize it. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And I have to force myself and remind myself, wait a second, I have a lot to be grateful for today, and I say what I'm grateful for multiple times a day out loud to myself. I say I'm grateful for this cup of coffee, which I don't drink coffee anymore, but, decaf. Anyways, I'm grateful for whatever. Magnus on my show.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my dog, Rocky. I have to tell myself this shit because if I don't, I find myself getting very sad, very down,
Yeah. No, and I think that's why you see one of the things that I have some of my clients do is gratification journal. Like you're write down 3 things that you're happy and enjoying right now, and it's the same thing. I think we need to start focusing way more on the positive things. And like I always say this, you have to focus on the smallest wins. I mean, It could be the simplest things. Oh, I took the stairs today instead of taking the escalator. I had a piece of fruit instead of eating a Snickers. We're not sponsored by a fruit or Snickers, but it's just those things that I think that we need to be more like looking at how good we actually have it.
Magnus, I have family members that I really can't talk to that often because they're so sad, so negative, and they really don't have really much to be negative about. And it breaks my heart because I wish I could be closer, but it's just I leave my meetings with them or my lunch with them or coffee with them, whatever, and I feel worse. I feel like, oh man, they're really bringing me down. And they didn't say, they're just complaining about, the world is this and that. I didn't get, and it's just like, I fucking can't. Like I can't be around negative. It's just, I'm trying to stay positive. I don't, and anyways, so be grateful, folks. Say gratuity every day. Be grateful for 10 things every day. Matter of fact, every 5 hours, say you're grateful for 10 things. Get off the social media. Don't get off it, but limit it and try to get out and walk. And I've been trying to connect with friends more often now, like phone calls, not text. I tell people, my friends text me. I'm like, no, call me. Don't text me. Call me. If you can't talk right now, then we'll talk later. I'm not fucking texting. Like,
no,
I'm not never texting, but you know what I mean.
And I think like actually seeing each other in person and trying to go there as well. And again, going back to like you need to surround yourself with good, positive people, because you need inspiration. And the saying goes, if you surround yourself by 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th, right?
Yeah.
So you always have to
5
focus
happy
on
people, you'll be happy.
Yeah. And also like actually, like, there's a meaning to it, like why you should be around people that are trying to be successful and positive, things like that, because it spreads, and you pick up their habits and you become part of it. And I think that is so important. And stop surrounding yourself with negativity, like the news, and like if you get depressed by social media or whatever it is, right?
And I'm not saying don't, obviously, folks, stay informed, and have common sense, but you could do that in 15 minutes, and the rest of the day you should be happy and be grateful and surround yourself with positivity, positive music, positive whatever, light, sounds, the fresh air, and then every day for 15 minutes, once a day, 15 minutes, get your news, and it's going to be who got killed and who got blown up and bad things. Okay, fine, next, and then just move on. Rest of the positive day.
And news. If you want to get a hold of the news, it's better if you're reading the news instead of watching it, because there's reading it has a different vibe and how it registers in your head, and you're not getting bombarded by
100%.
negativity and stress
100%.
and those like. So that's another thing that, like, even if you're like reading online, that is better than like watching the news in whatever form you're watching it.
All right, folks, we're going to turn it around. Positivity. I called this year the year of optimism. Doesn't mean stick your head in the sand. Doesn't mean be a child Pollyannic, but look for the optimism every single day. And that's what I'm doing. So anyways, Magnus, let's move on to the next thing, which has to do with positivity in a way. And that is working out. Exercise is very important to bolster your mood and all that stuff, which is very important. And I do it every day. But I have to laugh. I go to, I'm in the gym, and not everybody, but I see a lot of, usually it's younger guys, like in their teens or 20s. They use pre-workout. Now, folks, if you don't know what pre-workout is, it's basically this, usually it's a powder, but it could be a drink. But usually you see whatever. It's a drink or powder. You're going to make a drink out of it. And it's supposed to give you like the extra oomph, the extra pop to do your workout. And more often than not, it's just caffeine. It's you're drinking soda, and it might have some B12 vitamin in there. But I say to myself, like I saw some young guy putting it in his drink a couple of days ago, and he was just weightlifting, and I'm saying to myself, what the hell is this doing for this kid? Like, it's not like he's preparing for the Olympics. He was just kind of going slow and just weightlifting, which is fine. But I'm like, really? Is pre-workout really gonna like? And my thing is, folks, you don't need pre-workout. Cut the shit. You don't need it. There is no FDA-approved scientific literature, and if you say there is, post it up. I want to see it. Third party, not from the company. Third party, neutral scientific lab that's not being paid by anybody that says pre-workout absolutely scientifically works. Now, I know there's gym bros. No, man, I use it. I feel great. But that's not science, okay? So anyways, save your money. Don't buy that shit. Magnus, you're a trainer. You're a former athlete in Europe.
Yeah.
And you're former military. You're in great shape. You weightlift. What do you say to this crap?
I'm not touching it. Like, for me, I don't see the need for it, because it's like, why are you taking it? So you can lift a little bit more, or that you can increase your weight a little bit. The thing is that your body is not really supporting that. You're getting an external stimuli, like you're saying, caffeine, gurama, L-tyrosine, whatever it is, right? You're having these stimulants that you put in yourself. So these are basically chemicals that stimulate you. So your body should not be able to do the work that you're doing. And again, like, your heart is getting more stressed out, and a lot of your other like biological system when you're using it, like central nervous system. And it's harder for you to usually relax and recover from it too. And if you're so tired that you constantly need to have energy drinks or pre-workouts, there's something going on in your lifestyle that you're not trying to take care of. Usually going to bed in time and actually sleeping, right? And I see that you would get way more benefits by taking care of that, like going to bed, sleeping more, like doing active recovery, things like that, eating better, dealing with stress, whatever it is, right? These pre-workouts, I think it's hilarious, and I think it's also, again, how how the companies twist and turn, and that they kind of force people to think that they need it. It's the same thing before. It was like, okay, we need to have easy carbohydrate sources,
Whatever, right.
or we need to have protein powder, whatever it is, right? There's always going to be some way of trying to take the money out of your pocket and into the pocket of rich company, right?
Right.
And yes, there's some things that actually work, that actually gives you more energy. That we've seen that in with some, and this has been used for actually thousands of years, like the mushrooms, like the certain mushrooms, like the reishi mushroom, some cordyceps, things like that, that actually increases the oxygen into the mitochondria. Mitochondria is the basically the energy plant of your cell.
Yes,
so they're creating more energy, but for what? I understand if you're trying to go to the Olympics or you're a pro athlete or things like that, but general population, such a waste of time, and you're also putting way more stress on your body than you should. And the thing that is scary nowadays, that a lot of these energy drinks are so geared and pushed towards teenagers and children, even basically younger kids.
Yeah, it's bad.
And it's the same thing. Like you bring
kids think it's it's sold in the store, it must be safe.
Yeah, it's soda, or that you're going to Starbucks and giving your kids a bunch of coffee drinks with espresso shots and things like that. Okay, that doesn't contain that much caffeine, but still, like I don't see like someone as young as a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 15-year-old should be hooked up on caffeine.
Oh yeah, it's bad. No,
yeah, it's horrendous, because it affects their recovery and their sleep, and also the screens, that they're on their screens all the time. So your kid is not getting the sleep and the recovery that you need, and you're part of the problem. Like but I'm completely against it. I mean, I understand why some people might use it, but using it daily or several times a day or several times a week just because you go and train a little bit, come on. I mean,
you don't want that. You don't need it.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's like I like, for what? I mean, you're not gonna compete. You're not gonna do anything.
Crazy.
Like it's so. I don't get it. I don't get it. But certain people, and it's easy to get hooked on it as well.
It's a drug. Caffeine's a drug.
Yeah, and then you're like, I need it to be able to train. Well, if you need it, then that's an issue. And I'm gonna be honest, the supplement industry is pretty shady too. So we constantly see that they're putting things in the supplements that are not on the ingredient list, and also that is fairly bad, and it's very, from a molecular chemical like standpoint, is very, very, very close to classified drugs.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of athletes fail tests because they're on that.
Yep, and they're using supplements. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so that's all I got to say, Magnus. Anything else before we wrap up, Magnus?
No. Hope you guys have a good start of the year. One thing, if you're in the mindset of losing weight, that's not a good way to start the new year. You have to be way more detailed than that. You need to have a plan. Losing weight, no, you're trying to lose body fat to start out with, and you need to be detailed. Otherwise, it's never gonna happen. And you need, like, there's going to be lifestyle changes in it. So if that was one of your New Year's resolutions, don't just say, oh, I'm gonna lose weight. If you need help, you can have my email. You can email me, reach out to me, and I'll get back to you, and we can discuss and put up an individual plan that's gonna work for you and your lifestyle.
Awesome, Magnus. Thank you, everybody. Hey, don't forget to check back in, like, subscribe. We're closing in on 200 subscribers. People, Happy New Year. Healthy New Year to everybody. You deserve the best. You're going to get it. Thank you, everybody. I'm out of here. 5, 4. Thank you, Magnus.